Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our second lecture is for semester 1 is management theories and principles. First, we will define management, then we will go further. Actually, management is the six M's source. Number 1, man, money, material, machine, marketing, and methods. The term management is being used in several different ways. Sometimes it is referred to as a process that managers will follow to accomplish organizational goals. This term is also used to pinpoint those individuals who guide and direct organizations. Therefore, it is very essential to understand exactly what management is. Around the turn of the 20th century, early scholars viewed management simply as the ability to work through others. This view is too narrow because the managers today work with many other resources and tools. In fact, management nowadays is the process through which people work to accomplish goals that might not be achievable by an individual. Therefore, management can be defined as the process of coordination and integration of human, material, informational, and all other resources to achieve various specific goals. Accordingly, management performs the functions of effectively planning, organizing, leading, controlling, and coordinating the activities of the people in combination with other organizational resources to accomplish the stated organizational goals, whether in the form of the goods or services. We will discuss shortly or briefly the functions of management. It will be very easy for you. The process of management consists of basic 5 functions: planning, organizing, leading, controlling, and coordinating the human, physical, financial, informational, and technological resources of the organization in an effective and efficient manner. Planning. Planning is the first function of management. It is the process of seeing into the future and reaching there. Therefore, it involves the best possible use of an organization's resources to achieve the organizational goals and objectives, outlining not only how the task must be performed, but also indicating why they should be performed. It includes the consideration of alternative strategies and selecting the best for achieving the goals. There are 2 types of planning. One is the strategic planning and another one is the operational planning. Strategic planning focuses on long-term plans for achieving the overall objectives and missions. This planning deals with the future design and size of organization according to its growth potential, advantages, disadvantages, and consequences of certain actions. While the operational planning deals with the formulation of a short-term specific goal to ensure that the long-term objectives and missions are accomplished. Organizing is the second function. Organizing is the second function of management. It means bringing together the people and tasks to make effective use of human and other resources for achieving the organizational goal. Leading is the third function. This function involves influencing and motivating the people to work together for the achievement of organizational goals. After setting the organizational structures and allocating various tasks to the people who work with them, they provide leadership to groups and groups members to encourage organizational performance. They lead to persuade others to make effort to establish proper atmosphere so that people do their best. Controlling is the next function. Controlling is a very important ongoing process, and it lays down systems and standards for monitoring and evaluating the use of resources to make certain that progress conforms to the plan. It includes the collection of information, study of controls and budgets, and then finding new ways of improving production through organizational modification. The information feedback is of great importance because it will help the manager in assessing whether the set goals and objectives are being achieved or not. The last one is the coordinating. Coordinating is the challenging function of management because the manager seeks a balance in the use of resources to attain the objectives through it. So this is the management. It's a history. Earliest contributors, practicing managers, social scientists, more recent theories, academicians, management consultants. Practicing managers, first we will define the managers. Managers are a person who accept the above responsibility not only for their own actions but also for those of their organization. Thus it will be seen that plant managers run manufacturing process that produce goods, marketing managers study consumer psychology and develop and promote products so that they are made available to the consumers. Human resource managers provide organizations with workforce which is competent to produce the required goods and services. Managers will establish the actual role is to guide the organizations towards goal accomplishment. Reflected to their experiences to produce rational principles for universal application, efficiency improvement, to structure work and organizations, did not concentrate on human motivation and classical scientific. Early social scientists, it's a history, human behavior at work. Started with efficiency, looking at physical conditions, effects on employees, ended up in human risk factors, motivation, communication and leadership, called human relation theories and social psychologists, later social scientists, organization as a social system, and contingency theorists. More recent theories are strategic perspective, involved organization factors, vision, mission, culture, structure, values, external environment. Built on previous theories, more inclined to contingency theories. Classical management, Henry V, French 1841 to 1925, French industrialist and theorist. Mining engineers 9 years, was practically successful in management, File's definition of management by industrial activities, technical, commercial, financial, security, accounting and managerial. First 5 activity groups were taken care of. Managerial activities required establishment of principles. File's principles of management: division of work, authority, discipline, unity of command, individuals' intellect, interest, subordination, remuneration, centralization, scalar chain, order, equity, tenure of office stability, harmony, and teamwork. Comments on File's principles. First, emphasizes on structural organization, nature, bureaucracy. 2. Fairness, equity, etc. were not consistent with other main principles, not suited for rapid change. Frederick Winslow Taylor looked at efficiency on shop floor, was a laborer up to shop superintendent, developed scientific management. His background came up after Industrial Revolution. Dominant requirement was efficiency, need for systematic work, and workers only putting minimum effort. Scientific management principles: work, study, analytical approach. Steps: develop a science for each operation to replace opinion and rule of thumb. Determine best methods of its timing. Study a job from skilled workers. Eliminate unnecessary actions. Reduce best methods standard. Separate planning and controlling from actual doing. Select and train worker. Principles from scientific management times: Frank and Lennon Gilbert's applied scientific management to brick line, used work-study method to reduce movement per brick from 18 to 5. Current principle from scientific management: Gilbert's. Thurber's basic elements of on-the-job motions, process of charting, process flowcharts. Henry Gantt was Taylor's colleague, developed Gantt chart. Comments on scientific management benefit: increased productivity, rational approach applies measurement, incentive payments based on result. Weaknesses are rigidity, reduced workers' role, work fragmentation. Taylor was optimistic on acceptance, both employees and management. Wages were determined scientifically, no social consideration. Bureaucracy, Max Weber, 1864 to 1920. Common meaning: red tape, excess roles, paperwork leading to inefficiency. Management theory meaning: an organization formed with a system of rules and hierarchy of authority. Authority: acceptance of rule by those whom it is to be exercised on. Authority types: traditional, charismatic, rational, legal. According to Weber, bureaucracy was the most rational means of controlling human beings, indispensable for large-scale and complex organization. Bureaucracy main features are continuous organizations of functions bound by rules. 2. Specified spheres of competence. 3. A hierarchical arrangement of offices. 4. Appointment based on technical competence. 5th. Separation of officials from ownership. 6. Formulated rules, decisions and actions recorded in writing. Bureaucracy weaknesses are: number 1. Rules tend to be more important than efficiency. 2. Rigid behavior. 3. Prevents search for alternatives because of program decision making. 4. Damages relationship with clients or workers. And 5th. Difficult for change and adaptation. Human relations and social psychological schools. These theorists were academics and social scientists. They were concerned with the human factors at work. This was contrary to the classical theorists, who concentrated on work itself but not the worker doing the job. They dealt with human motivation, group relationships and leadership. A few motivation theories are mentioned here. Broad topics, group behavior and leadership have been left out for this course. Early motivation theories: human motivation, processes by which people seek to satisfy basic derives, perceived needs and personal goals which trigger human behavior. 2. Early theorists concentrated on motivation, contents, drives, needs. Content theories didn't focus on process. This is the motivation model. Motivation has the following component: stimulus, response and outcome. Stimulus mean physical and emotional. Response is the behavior, outcome is the satisfaction or frustration. Eitan Mayo was an Australian psychologist, a researcher in occupational aspects. For example, fatigue, accidents, labor turnover. Conducted studies for Western Electric, Chicago. Studies were on the worker rather than work. Employees were subjected to varying physical conditions and they didn't affect productivity. Focus was shifted to social aspects and they related to behavior and productivity. Mayer's conclusion: man is a social animal. Number 1. 2. Individual workers cannot be treated in isolation. 3. Belonging to a group is more important than monetary incentives and good physical condition. 4. Informal groups strongly influence workers' behavior. Abraham Maslow, 1950-60. Psychological needs: need for food, sleep, sex, etc. Safety needs: stable environment, relatively free from threats. Love needs: group status, affectionate relations with others. Esteem needs: self-respect and self-confidence, self-actualization and self-fulfillment. Maslow needs: that people tended to satisfy the both needs systematically. Main criticism on Maslow's theory: systematic movement up the hierarchy doesn't seem to happen practically. Maslow theories, however, formed a framework to analyze a variety of needs. D. McGraw, Theory X and Y. X and Theory Y. Manager's assumption about employees. Theory X: that employees are lazy, require coercion and control, avoid responsibility, seek security, similar to a rational economic man suggested, strongly related to scientific management. Y theory: opposite of X theory, that people like work, they work as naturally as resting or playing, they don't have to be controlled, they don't only accept but seek responsibilities, similar to Maslow's higher level needs. And self-actualization, a blend of theory X and Y, is more representative of real life. Later motivation theories are Theory Z, the Japanese approach, American exponent of Japanese approach with attempts for Western firms to adopt Japanese styles based on success of Japanese manufacturers. Efficient use of resources, especially people, strong personal related factors, mutual trust, employees and management, employees' loyalty to organizations, non-specialized career paths, shared decision making, long-term performance appraisal, collective responsibility. Remarks on the approach: some Japanese features are not transferable to West due to cultural issues. The West needs to develop better the employee factor on top technology. Japanese engineering has Taylorism, leading to standard production controls with the improved HR aspects. Criticism: slow decision making, imprisoning lifetime employment. System and contingency approach. Organization system: organizations are set up as open social system. A system is a collection of interrelated parts which forms some whole. Examples of systems are the human body, communication network, and a social system. A system can be open or closed. An open system obtains inputs from and discharges output to its environment. A closed system is self-supporting. Social systems, including all organizations as mentioned above, are open systems. Characteristics of open systems: first, they receive inputs or energy from the environment. 2. They convert inputs into outputs. 3rd, they discharge outputs into the environment. 4th, they are cyclic in nature. 5th, exercise negative entropy. Next, a stable system is a self-adjusting to a steady state. This is called negative feedback. And last, equinefiality. Open systems do not have to achieve their objectives using one particular method. Key variables in organization as a system: people, both individuals and groups, technology, organization structures, and environment. This is the model of an organization as an open system: people, material, information, finance, etc. Process, production and marketing activities, planning, organizing and control mechanism, research and development. And products are result, products, services, ideas and waste. These are the inputs, these are the conversation or activities, and these are the outputs, and then the feedback of information result. A system consists of subsystem and organization's boundaries, which are often invisible or defined strategically by stating the scope of its activities. 3. Subsystems also have boundaries which are called interfaces. 4. Some employees work at external boundaries in such activities: capital raising, purchasing and customer interaction. 5th, internal boundary, employees manage interfaces. And 6th, some subsystems tends to be relatively self-contained, closed. Contingency approach. Contingency builds on system approach. It recognizes organization to consist of interdependent components: external environment, technology and human skills and motivation. Contingency approach suggests that organization should look for the most appropriate combination of structural design in a given environment. 3rd, 4th, initially suggested by 2 American researchers at Harvard called Lawrence and several others shortly followed. Modern approach to management. Number 1, current approach to management are more of management currently in practice than mere management theory. Number 2, modern management background stems from advancing technology, increased competition and expanding markets, especially from Asia, increasing consumer expectation, improvements in communication and generally globalization market, making the world more interconnected than ever before. Strategic management approach organizations to clearly state a vision and mission, formulation of organization objectives, external environment analysis, organizational internal analysis, strategic choice and strategic implementation, managing change in and around the organization, developing and utilizing new technology, developing and utilizing skilled labor, creation of flexible structures but with relative stability. These are the 14 principles of Henry V. A principle refers to a fundamental truth. It establishes cause and effects relationship between 2 or more variables under given situation. They serve as a guide to thought and action. These principles are derived on the basis of observation and analysis by conducting experimental studies. 14 principles of management: division of labor, parity of authority and responsibility, principles of one boss, unity of direction, equity, order and discipline, initiative, fair remuneration, stability, scalar chain, subordination of individual interest, spirit de corps, centralization and decentralization. Division of labor: stress on the specialization of jobs, work of all kinds must be divided and allocated to various persons, simpler and results in efficiency, helps the individuals in acquiring speed, accuracy and best performance. Specialization leads to efficiency and economy in spheres of business. Party of authority and responsibility: coexisting authority is given to a person, he should also be made responsible. He should also be concerned authority if anyone is made responsible. Authority refers to the right supervisor. Responsibility means obligation for the performance of the job. Should be balanced. Authority minus responsibility is equal to irresponsible behavior. Responsibility minus authority is equal to ineffective. Principles of one boss: a subordinate should receive orders to be accountable to only boss at a time. A subordinate should not receive instructions from more than one person. Dual subordination should be avoided. The enterprise is a disciplined, stable and orderly existence. Harmonious relationship between superiors and subordinates. A subordinate should not receive instruction from more than one person. Unity of direction. One head, one plan. Related activities should be grouped together. Efforts of all the members of the organization should be directed towards common goal. Without unity of direction, unity of action cannot be achieved. Unity of command is not possible without unity of direction. Order. Concerned with proper and systematic management of things and people. Arrangement of things is called material order. Placement of people is called social order. Material order should be safe, appropriate to specific place for every article. Social order, selection and appointment of most suitable person of the suitable job. Discipline, sincerity, obedience, respect of authority, observance of rules and regulations of the enterprises. Subordinates should respect their superiors to obey their order. Smooth running of the enterprise. Subordinates, but also on the part of management. Discipline can be enforced if good superiors, clear and fair arrangements with workers, sanctions are judiciously applied. Initiative. Encouraged to take initiative in the work assignment to them. Initiate action without being asked to do. Management should provide opportunity to its employees. Helps in developing an atmosphere of trust. Enjoy working in their organization because it adds to their zeal and energy. Suggest improvement in formulation and implementation of this. Fair remuneration. Pay to the workers should be fair of effort. Satisfaction to both employers and employees. Determined on the basis of cost living, work assigned. Provision of other benefits such as free education, medical and residential facilities to workers. Management creates harmonious relationship and pleasing atmosphere of work. Stability of tenure. Employees should not be moved frequently from one job position to another. Once they are appointed, their services should be sought. Time is required for an employee to get used to new work. Money spent on training the worker will go waste. Stability of job creates team spirit and sense of belonging among workers, ultimately increase the quality as well as the quantity of work. Scalar chain. The chain of superiors ranging from the ultimate authority to the lowest. Every order's instructions has to pass through scalar chain. For the sake of convenience and urgency, dispatch can be cut this shortcut. Temporary arrangement between two different points to facilitate quick and easy communication, modified as per the requirements of situation. Subordination of individual interest to general interest. An organization is much bigger than the individual as far as possible. Reconciliation should be achieved between individual and group. Case of conflicts, individual must be sacrificed for bigger interest. In order to achieve this attitude, employees should be honest and sincere. Proper and regular supervision of work. Reconciliation of future differences. Spirit de corps. It refers to team spirit and inspires workers to work hard. Interest of the undertaking in the long run. The manager should infuse team spirit and belongings. Spirit de corps, following steps should be undertaken. Proper coordination. 2. Should be encouraged to develop informal relations among themselves. 3rd. Create enthusiasm and keennesses among subordinates. Employees should be rewarded. Centralization and decentralization. Centralization, concentration of authority at the top level. Decentralization, disposal of decision-making authority to all the levels of the organization. Increases the role of subordinate is decentralization and decreases the role of subordinate in centralization. It is not feasible. Organization should strive to achieve a lot between the two. Thank you so much.